ready to get into some questions?
Yeah, ready whenever you
Perfect. Okay. So first of all, I wanted to know what initially attracted you to the show and how it sort of stood out from anything else you've done, because it is very unique.
are. This show, I just remember getting the scripts and just sort of thinking like, wow, like, one, it's the 90s. Two, they're like jumping, you know what I mean, between different years. And I think the opportunity to, one, play, like such unique characters, but then like played three different versions of them was just like a different kind of, challenge that I was just so stoked on. And yeah, I think just the opportunity to play three different versions of these people was like to me, I was like, that's pretty dope. Like I want to do that. Absolutely.
No, honestly. And I can imagine for you as an actor, that's even more fun to like jump in and sort of play these three, even though they're a year apart, it's three different stages in his life, basically.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, it's awesome to see as a viewer. And you recently had the premiere of the series, which looked a lot different because it was a little safer due to the pandemic. So what was that experience like for you to sort of finally see these finished premiere episodes and share that experience with everyone, with your cast and crew and everyone?
And after working so long on, a project, especially through the pandemic, it was definitely rewarding. And just the experience of, the Beverly Hilton and having the premiere there itself was like different. It felt like we were all, in high school on a theater festival trip, and everyone has their own hotel room, and that was such a dope experience. I never got to go to camp as a kid, so for me that was my version of like, all of my friends, like, like in the same like space. Like it was really, really cool, man. It was like any other, unlike any other premiere I'd ever experienced or seen at all. Hopefully that can become the new norm. But yeah, it was definitely unlike any experience I'd ever had. And hopefully in the future they can continue to do it that way, because that was like, I don't know, I think they set the bar for, just premieres in general. Yeah, that needs to be the new norm for sure.
It looked really fun, and like I'm glad you guys got to do that despite everything currently going on, because it's definitely, I can imagine that experience for you as an actor that's worked on the show for so long is something you look forward to kind of share that experience and get ready for it to go out into the world, basically, because you guys had it pretty close to the actual premiere date.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, like you said, just to see it all, finished, and just celebrate it, properly, and send it off, in the best energy possible. I think that they executed that, and I don't know, I felt like we really sent it off with some, some good juju, and put it out there, and everyone's really receiving it. We've received nothing but like positive energy, and positive feedback from it. So that's all I could really ask for, just everyone clearly understands what's going on and is like, engaged in what's happening. And yeah, you just leave the rest up to the audience.
And I have to say, one of my favorite aspects of the show, which you touched on already a little bit, is that the show is set over 3 summers and told through these shifting points of view through each episode, and also like just the 90s feel to it, and each individual, it feels like you're playing a different character every time you come on my screen, which I love because it just shows the growth. What do you think this adds to the storytelling aspect of the show, especially with it being this psychological drama mystery? And did it add something for you as an actor?
Well, to me, I like to think that it just makes it all the more fun for the audience, because it's always fun for me when I know something about a character that they might not know about themselves, or when you can see something coming. And I think with the 3 different years, you see things around the corner that these characters don't even see themselves. So you might see Jeanette in 95, and then it jumps back to 94, and you're like, she has no idea that, you know what I mean? She's like, where she's headed, and like, decisions that she's making. And I think that's definitely fun, while playing detective, as an audience member, like, you're at home putting pieces and, things together like that. And I think that definitely enhances that experience, you know, knowing things that these characters don't know about themselves yet. As the actor, it was definitely challenging. And I appreciate a challenge all the time. You know, whenever I can, you know, I love to challenge myself as an artist. But 3 years as an actor, I felt like just gave me more room to, you know, just play and just have more fun with the character and to add, you know, even more. You know, they're giving you more of time, basically. It's just, and the more time you have, to me, it's just like the more you can just add all these different elements, because, you know, we are who we are through our experiences. And I think whether you're seeing those experiences on camera or whether those are things that, you know, you just sort of come up with, you know, in the back of your mind and create these backgrounds for these characters, it definitely translates, and you definitely see and feel those things very heavily on screen. These things about these characters that, you know, maybe aren't even said, you know, but you feel that, you know, when you watch it. So yeah, that was definitely the good part of that for me, you know, being able to
Describe that
create.
perfectly. You described it perfectly. Like you said,
Right.
as a viewer, you see things, you know things that the characters don't know from 94 to 95. It makes it
Yeah.
that much more fun.
Yeah.
Um, with this, we get to see Vince over 3 years of his life, and you're transforming through these years. And I
Yeah.
love the fact that you can tell which year it is based on how the characters look
Yeah.
and the tone of the scene, the lighting. It makes it so easy to follow as a viewer, because you'd think it'd be a little confusing, but you guys did such a
Yeah.
great job with it to make it all distinct. What transformation are you sort of most excited for fans to see, like how we ended up here for Vince?
Ooh, I think it's the 95 year. I think everyone has their own journeys, and it's silly to think that everyone changes in every year. You know, to me, I think Vince's big change and his big, you know, just like self-awareness moment happens in between 94 and 95. And you'll see that a lot when you see him in 95. He's completely different, you know, from 93 and 94. You know, his appearance, of course, changes throughout these years, but I think Vince as a person, he kind of really hits that corner and, you know, turns the corner and, you know, just starts walking a new path in 95, definitely. So man, I'm excited for it all. I'm excited for everyone to see everything. There's like, this is one of those shows where I feel like just don't blink, man. Don't miss a moment.
Yeah,
Use the restroom before, you know, while during commercial break. Take advantage of that, because if you miss like a single thing, it's just gonna leave you like, man, like you're just gonna wish that you were there to see what was going on, because everything is important. But definitely Vince's 95 years, one that you want to understand, and I think to understand that you have to pay attention to 93 and 94 to see how he got there and what pushed him to, you know, become that person in that later year. So yeah.
definitely. Or do you have any favorite 90s trends that you'd want to bring back today from working on the show or just in
I just
general?
like how like loose fitting the clothes are. I like I love clothes, and I, you know, I love, like, to me my biggest like thing with clothing is like pants. I can never find a good pant. But I think in the 90s they really did a great job at, you know, like I love the style from the 90s like overall, but like pants in the 90s I felt like were really great on, like, you know, guys and girls. I don't know. I really dig the vibe. Let's see. More specifically, I feel like trend. I'm trying to think like of a trend that needs to come back around. I mean, because history repeats itself all the time, so I'm sure it will. You know, there are things that I noticed about like today's generation that I'm just like, oh, it's so crazy. You know, it just came right back around. But I think fashion definitely, like, we need to, you know, hone in on the 90s a little bit more again. Let's spend some more time there. You know, a little bit more time before we move on from the 90s. Um, but I get the feeling, you know, all around me that, like, you know, it's such perfect timing for the show because, you know, it's the 90s, and, you know, I'm looking at other things around me and like music and in fashion, and, you know, and those are all giving me 90s vibes. So I just think, you know, I don't know, something's in the water, you know, it's definitely, you know, in the back of everyone's mind, you know, somewhere. So yeah. let's pay attention to that more and you know, look cool again.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask you if you stole anything from set when you rapped. You should have stole the clothes.
Right, yeah. Should have stolen the clothes, man. I'm too nice. I'm just so I don't know. Even when they're like, "Oh, you sure you want it?" I don't know. I'm like, "Oh, I'm okay." But I do wish I would have stolen some pieces. I do have. It's in a later episode, so maybe I shouldn't say, but I do have a T-shirt that Vince wears, and I have a pair of socks that Vince wears from the show. So I got a couple, you know, couple little
Definitely.
things, little memories.
Definitely. Yeah, you
Yeah,
gotta. It was a big experience. You gotta take a little
yeah,
something.
yeah. A long experience, so gotta walk away with something, you know.
And so one thing that I love about the show is it's this psychological thriller. And I think as, you know, as a viewer, we need more of those. And it's always nice when you're on the edge of your seat waiting for the next episode. What was it like for you diving into the psychological thriller? And did you do any sort of preparation, watch any movies, TV, anything like that before you started?
Mhm. Well, this is how I think about it personally. You know, every actor is different. Every artist, like in general, is different. I think when I look at something like this and you see psychological thriller, it's so easy to say, okay, I'm gonna play into that and I'm gonna play the dramatics of that and you know, keep everything super, you know, serious. But I think um no matter who I am as an individual or like no matter what's happening, like if you see something bad happening, right? It doesn't make it any more or less bad depending how like depending on how the person is I guess doing it or like speaking or like how their behavior is. Like, you know, if someone's being stabbed to death, you're not, you know, you're not judging them on how they're doing it or like how their face looks. And I think um I guess like to make that make sense, tying that into, you know, being an actor, I could just so easily show up to work and be serious every day, you know, act mysterious. But I think that the mystery is like that this is just such a normal situation. And, you know, like I think it adds to the mystery element because, you know, these are just normal people. And it does make you wonder, like, okay, if this person is behaving so, you know, just normal and just acting like a normal teenager, it really, you know, makes you like question like even deeper. And I think, you know, a rich guy walking down the street, does he walk down the street? Does he act rich? What does that look like? What does that feel like? He's just a guy, you know, people are just people. And I think, you know, you can either choose to just be honest and just tell the story, or you can just feed into like, oh, it's a psychological thriller. Let me act mysterious and act, you know, dangerous. But
Yeah.
like, no, you know, those things, the events that are taking place are going to happen regardless, whether or not everyone has a smile on their face or whether or not everyone's sobbing their, you know, eyes out. So, you know, it's just being honest and just, you know, just telling the story how it is. You know, she's going to disappear regardless of, you know, if we're all laughing and, or if we're all, you know, depressed. Like, these things happen and these events took place. So I think just keeping that honesty there is definitely was really big for me, you know, going into it, just like, you know, just staying honest and just telling the story naturally.
Love that. That
Yeah.
that's said so perfectly. I love
Yeah.
that.
Hopefully that
Um,
made sense.
yes, no, it did, because you're right. Like, what are you gonna rate them on a scale from 1 to 10 on dramatics when they're
Right.
going through
You
all these
know?
events?
Ah, man.
Oh my
Man.
gosh, yes. I have to know because my thoughts and opinions change each episode. At the end, I'm feeling something different. So, what was your first reaction to reading the script? And did you have sort of a side you were drawn to?
Ooh, my first reaction was this is intense. And I, in some way, shape, or form, want to be a part of this story and want to help tell it. Um, and yeah, that was literally just it for me. Like I read the first episode and I was like, I need to be a part of this. I need to at least, you know, try to be a part of this. And yeah, I forget. I'm sorry. The second part of your question, what was it? One more time.
Oh, yeah. Did you have sort of a side you were originally drawn to after reading the first
Mm.
script? Were you leaning one way towards the other? Were you torn?
Well, I think initially, like reading it, I was more of a Jeanette person, because I was like, because I just like to think that, no one's in the wrong here, in my opinion, and Allius's opinion. No one's really in the wrong because these are just teenagers, they're just teenage girls just doing what teenage girls do, or just teenagers in general do. And I think that they don't even necessarily, know the deep, deep, like dark, like consequences, like for their actions. They're just, just walking through life and just living their lives and discovering things. They're just curious teenage girls. Um, and I think keeping that in mind after reading the script, I was like, how can you really be mad at Jeanette? She just wanted to be cool. She had no idea that, but then that big twist at the end of the first episode, where Kate drops that bomb, it's like, man, it's like, you don't know anymore, but like, is she jealous? Is she, you have no idea. So I think a big part of what drove me to, really do the work to become a part of this project is like wanting to know what happens. Like, like I really wanted to know like where the story went. And I think that's what, just like gave me the drive to, invest my time into this role and, execute it in a way that they felt like, okay, this is who this guy is. And, I just feel so grateful and just so blessed to even, be a part of this story, to tell the story of these two girls, especially working with such an amazing cast, an amazing team of creatives, people that I look up to, Iron Ocean Productions, who does like The Sinner, from Jessica Biel and Michelle Purple, just things like that. I'm like, man, like just to have the opportunity to be here, I'm like just so grateful. So yeah, it's surreal, definitely. But man, yeah, we're here. So
Well, I was so excited to speak with you in general. I was specifically excited to speak with you about this episode because
yeah,
we have a revelation that we can discuss. Fans are sort of introduced to what seems like a relationship, though nothing has been confirmed, between
yeah,
Vince and Ben.
yeah.
We want more of it. We didn't get to dig too deep into it, but we did get a few glimpses. What can you sort of tease about what's coming up, and what was your reaction when you found out that this was the path that we were going down for Vince?
I think that Vince and Ben just connect on such a deeper level than anyone could understand. And you'll find out later as things unravel and things unfold in the season, later on in the season, how they get there. But you're right. You are sort of left like, like what is happening here and how did they get here? Because you do get a glimpse of that. Man, I just think that these two are just, they're definitely the pure souls on the show. And I think they connect in that way, Would you agree? See, there
Yes.
you go.
Oh my God. That scene when they were dancing. Oh, you guys had my heart. It was so, oh,
Oh my God.
it was so beautiful.
Yeah, such beautiful moments in the show, right? Yeah, Vince and Ben, man, they're just two pure souls. And I think they see that in each other, and that just ignites something so special. Whether or not it's a relationship or just a deep friendship, they're definitely, just on another level with each other, on a different plane. I feel like when they're together, it takes you out of, okay, the drama, like, everything that's happening, like, it's like, okay, like here's something like beautiful that's happening, outside of like this huge mess. And I think, I don't know, I was just so happy that could, read that way and people could receive it that way. So thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. It was really big on us, just like as actors, like we were, really heavy on ourselves. Like we didn't rehearse or anything. We didn't, rehearse for those moments. We wanted it to be as natural as possible, because those are, very difficult situations, I guess, to put yourself in, especially when getting to know someone and discovering things about them. But I'm so excited for the audience to see how they got there. More importantly, I feel like it's so special to see them there and, just see them glow in that way. But I think how they got there and the way they connect is so much more, like important, and it's a lot deeper. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm so
I'm
happy. I'm
excited.
so happy
Yes.
you love it.
Oh my
Oh man.
gosh, that was one of my favorite scenes of the episode. I was so thrilled. I rewatched it last night. I
Yay.
was like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm excited to see everyone react tonight to it. And oh my
Yes.
gosh. And I'm excited to see more, like you said, how we sort of got to this place. It's really, really
Yeah.
well done.
Oh man, I can't wait. Whew. Right.
So another thing we saw in this episode between the pair was that 1995 phone call. That was tense and painful, and it hurt me definitely to watch. It was like, oh my gosh, especially with what we just saw. What is one word you'd sort of use to describe how they ended up like this after, we saw them happy and connected and, you know, I'm sure there's a lot deeper, so I will not tempt you with any spoilers, but if you had to describe one sort of word as how we ended up to that.
But I think here's a random word for you: disposable. It gets to a point, I feel like, everyone has a friend like Vince, or everyone needs a friend like Vince. And it gets to some point where, the good friend sort of does so much for everyone else that he sort of forgets to, check in on himself, as well as everyone else around him forgets to, really check in. And I think there's something that happens later in the season where I think Vince just feels like, wow, like especially when you learn more about him and, how he got to where he is. And I think that those things, combined, he just feels disposable at one point. And he just feels like, people are just sort of like, picking him up when they need him and, forgetting about him and forgetting that, Vince is like, the really like the positive, like one in this situation. And I think at some point, you just sort of draw the line and you start to just turn away from everything and, you start to look more like inward and, look within yourself. And I think that happens to Vince. He's just like, I'm tired of feeling disposable, I'm tired of feeling like all these things that are happening are so much more important, you know what I mean, when he has everyone else's back at the end of the day, because he's such a loyal friend, man. Vince, I could never, but he's such a loyal guy, man. He's really sticks around, and he really, no matter what, he's not a bridge burner, even if he doesn't speak to you for a long time, he definitely has your back. And I think he recognizes people for what they are and who they are, and that'll never change. No one can ever take that away from him. That quality as a human being.
You sort of led us into our next question really beautifully.
Nice.
Vince has this loyalty and he believes Jeanette. He is, from what we saw at the end when he is with the lawyers, sort of giving his statements, he doesn't waver. He lies for her. He is the definition of loyalty. We all need a friend like him. But it's the total opposite of Mallory, and we still don't really know what happened between the group of friends from 94 to 95, 93 to 94. And then we see them interacting sort of at the basement that had that very dramatic feel and that cliffhanger feel. Are we gonna sort of get more of this, like, them interacting in the future? Are we gonna see, why Vince's character is so loyal? Or that's just who he is as a character, and he's gonna defend her till the very end?
Man, the writer Tia Napolitano, she does such an amazing job with these 3 different years. And I think that's definitely one of those things, again, that keeps you on the edge of your seat. And she takes such great advantage of, the 3 years and the time jumping, because to answer your question, you will find out how they get there. I feel like everything you see, the things where you're just like, whoa, what, how did, everything gets answered at like one point or another. Everyone's questions will be answered. Trust me, like, you're never gonna be left like just like unsatisfied, or just like things like just wandering, or like loose ends, like not tied up or anything like that. Everything gets answered at some point. So again, just as the season unravels, I feel like things will pop up in and out, which is why it's so important to pay attention, because like you said, you see where they are in 93 or 94, in like episode 3, but then like in episode you know, 8 or 9 or whatever, you'll see, okay, like that's how they got there. That's, happened because of this. And, everyone has different motives and different, things that they're chasing after as human beings, especially at that age, those early high school years, 15 to 18 or whatever, those are the years where I feel like even if it's not necessarily, in a negative way, people split up and, friends grow apart, because you start to discover things about yourself and things that you're into. And, that might not necessarily be the same for, your best friend of however long, like, 14, 15 years, you guys just different interests, So I won't say whether or not it was messy, but I will say that you will find out, you will find out why or how they got there.
So this one, I know you can't get too deep in, but how long did it personally take for you to connect the dots before you got the answers? And did you figure out what happened ahead of time or create your own theories, or you waited till the end to let everything click?
To the end, definitely. We sort of along the ride, so we're as the actors discovering things, just discovering things about the show, about these characters as we're going. And I think it definitely wasn't until the end where I was just like, okay, because man, I'm just telling you, the writing is so good, and she's such an amazing just person and just such an amazing artist. Tia, she's so good, man, that I didn't want to assume anything. I just wanted to just sort of just be surprised. So that's what I did. I allowed myself to be surprised, and to just enjoy the mystery of it all, even as the actor, to enjoy like not knowing what's, around the corner. And when you get that script in your email and you read that, that draft, and you're just like, man, it definitely just motivates you and it pushes you to even, just come up with more things. And, this was such a collaborative experience for me as an actor, probably the most collaborative experience I've ever, had working on any sort of project, because they're just so, open to hearing the actor's ideas, sort of like with Froy Gutierrez's character, Jamie. Froy is of Mexican-American descent. And I think even that, like allowing him to bring his element and his culture to, a role was just so, it's just something that just doesn't really happen often, in this industry. And I think this show is just so special. Everyone is just so creative and just such awesome human beings. And I'm just so happy that this experience could have been what it was, because I've never experienced collaboration like on that level. So I think, it all just ties in together in that way, just really grateful. I guess.
It came out amazing. You guys all work together so great, and definitely does it. One last question for you. I wanted to ask, while this is, a mystery thriller, you're on the edge of your seat, you're making the theories. One thing I personally love about TV is that you always sort of find a character that you relate to, or you have your favorite. Is there a message you either want the show or Vince to give fans? Because, the leads are teens, and a lot of teens are going to be watching this, a lot of young adults. And it's like, you learn so much from TV, and this show, I feel like, has a lot of lessons that could be learned from the characters on the show. So is there something personally, whether you learned it or you hope viewers learn it?
One thing I noticed about this show is how uninvolved these parents are until everything just, until the crap like hits the fan, and I think there's a lot of teenagers at home, going through things that are just being unnoticed and like unseen because, maybe the parents are working, they're just maybe, they come from a close-knit family, setting, but it just so happens that at this particular time in life, there are other things happening. I think everyone just needs to understand. It really pains me, the scene in the very first episode. I'm sorry, I have to bring this up to answer that.
Oh, go.
Scene in the very first episode, where Jeanette is standing with Greg in the kitchen, and she says, I just want to wake up and be popular and pretty and, just poof, everything just goes. And he takes that candle out and he's like, hey, just wish for it. I think had he just said something different, had he just gone,
Yeah,
what do you mean? Like, you're already beautiful,
exactly.
I
How do you
think had
let
he
your
just done
daughter
that,
believe that when she's still
right. I
growing?
think, man, I mean, actually, he's such an amazing father, Greg. I mean, literally, he's a great dad. Um, but I think those moments, I think just reassuring, our youth that they're enough and that they don't need to, chase after these things can just knock out such unnecessary chapters in life. It took me a long time, as a young, like, I don't think it was until I was like, a young adult, coming out of those teenage years that I realized you don't have to necessarily experience things to, learn from them. You can take away from others' experiences and, just like role models or older siblings or whatever, whoever you have to, mirror that. But I think if anyone's watching, I think you are enough and you are great and you are an amazing human being and beautiful individual. And even if those aren't the parts of you that you recognize, you will one day. And I don't think it's worth chasing after something and changing yourself for, especially in such identity shaping years, teenage years. So yeah, you are beautiful. Whoever's watching, you're a beautiful person. You're a beautiful human being. And you will continue to be great. And the rest is irrelevant. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, yeah.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. You were absolutely fantastic in this episode, and I have no doubt that's going to continue in all the episodes to come. But I'm so excited to learn more about Vince and Ben, everything that got him to 95. And the show is so fantastic. All of the congrats and all of the praise is well deserved. You have me on the edge of my seat every week. I'm doing the weekly reviews, and I
That's great.
absolutely love it. It's so great.